Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the jar. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mental Health Today. I'm your host, Ken Stearns, and just a great watching that video. I haven't done a Mental Health Today live recording in a while. So for me, that's just super special. Those are my words probably about 30 months ago, as I anticipated getting on the road and traveling around the country to 111 cities and interviewing 444 people. I made it to 96 cities, 330 people, took a little bit of a pause for the jar, and just an amazing experience. And halfway through that, I did see up close and personal the mental health crisis and just mental health. Maybe it's not a crisis. Maybe this is just reality and what we all kind of go through. And so now I've, given this an opportunity for people to come on here and share their own kind of personal journey. And a lot of this has been around professionals doing what they do in the mental health space to help address it. But also now kind of transitioning a bit to individuals and how they have kind of clawed their way out of their own struggles, and or how they're kind of proposing to help people struggle, that are struggling to kind of find their own path. And Cathy, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be a guest.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Ken. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you've got, so I love the pre-chat. You've got your own story. And you're on your own journey. And I think it's kind of cool because you're right at this, you got that blind corner you're coming around right now, about to publish your own book, which is a little bit of a, I'll let you tell the listeners a little bit more of the background, but you're on that at the end of the street and you're kind of turning the corner and you can't really see around the corner right now because you don't, which is exciting. Because around the corner is a big headline with your book being released, and then all the stuff that's on that street, all the fanfare, all the happy spots, the bright lights, and and hopefully people finding you and finding your story and making a connection and some way gaining something out of that.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so hello everybody. I'm Catheline, Cathy for short. And depression has been something that has plagued me for a very long time, even before I realized what I was going through. So, I think the first time that I really started thinking about what it was and what I was going through was in my early 20s. And it was to the point where I was always saddened by something, always depressed. I would get into these long, moods and of depression, stayed to myself, got angry and short with my sister, and she didn't quite understand what I was going through. I didn't quite understand what I was going through. Now, I'm sure you remember, Ken, that like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I'm going to say, nobody was really talking about mental health. Nobody was talking about depression.
Oh, yeah. And yes, absolutely.
Right. And every time I got into one of my moods, people that I knew, friends, family, they'd be like, get over it. What's wrong with you? Just stop acting.
I love that story. Right.
Yeah. And to the point, Ken, where I felt like that myself. I used to, beat myself up, so to speak, to say, what's going on? Like, why are you behaving this way?
Yes.
And it took me a long time to realize that I actually did need to find help. Now you have to understand that ever since I was a child, I loved writing. I mean, I remember writing little books for my father. I would make up I would take paper and cut it in half and, draw lines on it and write a story and give it to my father. And at the end of the day, he'd be reading it on his bed. And, it was something that really made me proud. But so it was something that I always did. And I didn't realize until my 20s that I also used writing as a way to help me get through things that I didn't understand.
Yes.
I didn't even realize I was doing it. So in my 20s, I wanted to write something. I wanted to write a story about a woman who is going through issues. I call them issues because
Shoes.
I couldn't understand what I was going
Yeah,
through,
you
right?
didn't have some words to put to it. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to write that about this woman who had these issues to deal with, and she had to look deep inside herself, and she had to find that, she had to go through this journey on her own, and there were people in her family that was also going through their own issues, and she needed to, like, to come to terms with her past, with her family. And it was while I was writing this book when I started realizing I think I'm suffering with depression. I don't know exactly how I came to realize that, but my sister one day was just like, I can't take this anymore. And she started looking through a phone book for because at the time I don't think the internet was that so she was actually looking through the phone book for a therapist for
That's a
me.
long time ago.
Go. And I was open to it. When she started doing that, I was
Oh,
just like,
really?
okay, I this is what I have to do. I guess this is what I have to do. And the first therapist that I had was because of my sister, and it was through those therapy sessions that I realized that that depression was a thing. That's what I was suffering with.
Hmm. Did you figure out what, was there some trauma? Was it diet? Was it exercise? Was it sunlight? Was it environment?
Well, it took me many years. Okay, so I'm now 49. So when I started this journey of going through to
Mm,
therapists was like maybe when I was like 24, 25 years old.
okay.
So easily like 23 years or so.
Mm,
And it wasn't until like 3 years ago that I realized the source of my
okay.
depression.
Okay.
And I realized it completely by accident. But you know what? I'm not going to say by accident because I think that it's because I've been doing the work all these years with therapists and
Yeah.
writing and all this stuff. I think it's because of that I was finally able to see and understand where my depression came from. And I was with my cousins and my sister. We were watching a program where this woman was, she was a Army cadet naval officer, and she suffered molestation, sexual abuse
Yeah.
on the base. And she
Okay.
was telling her story, and it was it was really triggering for me, so triggering. And then I realized what it was, that this was the reason why I had suffered with depression all this time. So I
Uh,
remembered a time when I was 12 years old, I think cusp of 11, 12 years old,
mhm.
where I was sexually molested by someone, and it I fought him off and I defended myself. However, it wasn't until then that this is what my memory recalls.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Before that moment, I was fine. I was a regular child, happy, whatever. It wasn't until after that moment where I was always crying in school. I didn't do well in school.
interesting.
I was filled with self-loathing.
Yeah.
And I recall that after that event happened with that boy, that I was really, really, really punishing myself. How did you let that happen? Why didn't you see the signs? I wasn't angry with the boy. I took my anger out on him already. But
Yes.
now
Okay.
I was left with this
Yes.
self
Guilt
loathing.
almost, or self-loathing. Yeah.
Yes,
Which is
yeah,
so weird.
yeah. I mean, in anything that we do, whether it's something small or major, if it's something that we felt like we could have prevented, we
Yeah.
will beat ourselves up over it, you know. And that's what I had done to myself. And when I came to this realization, I had to talk to my therapist about it because now I was reliving this,
Oh,
and
oh,
I was
goodness.
reliving the pain,
Ooh.
yeah. And so she had to like talk me through it, and it was just it was just amazing. It was just amazing because I finally figured out where the source of my depression
Source.
came from. Whereas before I thought maybe it's just a chemical imbalance. But I
Yeah.
realized,
Yeah. Something,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Genetic, or you're looking for any answer, probably.
yeah, yeah. So So yeah, there you have it. And it's amazing how I realized that after that moment, I realized what my view on boys and men were, how I viewed myself in
Ah,
relationships, how all my relationships ended, because I didn't voice, my dislike for something, or it's so interesting how it affected the way I behaved in the world and around men. It's crazy.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense in some way because it still
Yeah.
also was very unresolved.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now, how about your book? So how does your book? I mean, this is kind of funny. I was having this thought as you were. I'm going to come back to the question, but
Mhm.
just having this thought as you were saying it. It's almost kind of like what purpose we have, right? We struggle for our
Mhm.
purpose in life sometimes, and and all of a sudden yours is so obvious in some
Yeah,
ways, right? That
yeah,
it's to write the book, it's to share the story, it's to
mm,
be the lady that was on the TV is who you
mhm.
have to be for somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, right? That's a good point. I never thought about it that way. But so yeah, when I started writing the book, as I said, I didn't really have the words for it. I didn't know what she was going through. I just knew that she needed to go through some emotional turmoil.
Okay.
And then when I realized that what it was that I was suffering with was depression, that's when I did so much research, online research. I went into so many different websites, looked up to what depression was, how is it triggered, what is the medications for it. I did all this research and incorporated it into my novel in the form of a therapist who's helping my main character through this and telling her all about depression and medications and all that stuff. And it took me and then I changed jobs. I became a teacher, and so that went on the back burner, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't look at it for like 10 years or so, right? And then
Interesting.
when I came back to it, that's when I came back to it about 6 years ago, that's when I poured all everything that I've experienced and learned ever since then about depression.
Yeah.
I poured it all into the book. I had two different editors look at it, give me their thoughts on how I could perfect it, make it better. And so I really feel like at this point, yeah, it's funny because every time I felt like I was the book was good, was done, I was just like, it's where I want it to be. But but now I really feel like yeah, I really feel like everything is in there that I need
Yeah.
to be in there. All my experiences, I took the pain that I felt in my darkest moments and I transferred it into the book. I made my main character feel what I was feeling just so that it could be really authentic. So
Therapeutic.
so therapeutic. So therapeutic. I was at my happiest when I was writing about my depression. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Of course, I went through my moments where I was just like,
Sure.
there were times when I had to put it down, put it away, but I always came back to it, and I was always happy to come back to it. And then,
So cute. It's the best line ever, by the way. I was at my happiest when I was writing about my depression. That's like
that's
that's the best quote.
I love that. Yes, that's so true. Um, and then I created a blog called Cathy's Cross, a depressive's positive perspective. And the idea of my cross to bear was my
Yes.
depression,
Yeah.
and the idea of what I did to overcome or help myself um, bear the depression. And all of this I
Mm.
found by accident. I started exercising on a regular basis. I started talking about, my sister, my cousins, and we would share these positive videos that we found on YouTube. And I started inundating myself with them. I started meditating every day because they were like, oh, it works for me. And I was like, okay, let me try it too.
Yeah.
And so all these things that I was trying, I wasn't doing it so that I can help myself overcome depression. I was just doing it because there was a group of us doing it together. And then I realized after a few months, I was like, I haven't really been depressed. And it was, I felt like it was just a cocktail of all these things that I was doing:
Yeah.
the writing, the therapy, the positive self-talk, the videos, the meditation, the exercise, all of it together, I think was helping me. And I was astounded.
I think there's so much about exercise and diet, I think that can help you. I mean, depression, you have a trigger and then
Mm-hmm.
it stays around. And I think there's a lot to be said for talking it through.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a lot about just letting it go
Mm-hmm.
and not tying yourself back to that event repeatedly over and
Right.
over again after I don't know what the timeline is, but because everybody's experience is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, exercise, diet, positive manifestations, positive meditation, so powerful.
So powerful, and it all
Uh,
worked for me. And
yeah,
and and I came from a place where I was meditating every day, and I was telling my cousins and my sister, "You guys, this is not working for me. I don't feel anything." But I kept at it because they were so adamant about it. They were like,
yeah,
"No, just keep on trying it." And I have to stress though that it's not just the meditation. It's not
no,
just the exercise. It was all of it
yeah,
together.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
a cocktail.
it's a cocktail. It really
Hey,
is.
let's do a question of the day out of the jar.
Okay.
Everybody
Okay.
saw the video. They saw driving around this crazy van. Well, they didn't see that part, but I got this beautiful jar, 444 questions in there. And I'll pull one out for Kathy and let's just see what it says. This is a kind of a
Okay.
cute one. I'm kind of this one. I sometimes I read a question or I see it and I'm like, oh, I wonder what the answer is. So from the jar to Kathy, what is your spirit animal and why?
Okay, this is a good one because I'm a Leo and I really identify with the lion. So that's my
Oh,
spirit animal. Okay, so the
so good.
lion is the king of the jungle, right?
Absolutely.
He's not or she's not supposed to be afraid of anything, any other animals. She's territorial, fights for, her I'm gonna say her because I'm a
Yeah,
she.
yeah, yeah.
You know, um fights when she needs to stay alive, right? And I feel like that's what I've done, right? Even
Yes.
at my lowest moments, I was, you know, my sister, yes, she's the one who really helped me start seeking therapy and start really thinking about what I'm going through. But once I realized what I was going through, I fought to stay
Yeah.
alive. I fought to understand what I was going through. I wrote about it. I did my research
Mm.
and I maintained this this audacity to overcome what I was going through. I feel like yeah, I'm the and uh, Leo's lions they like attention and I write about myself on my blog.
All right.
I've accepted all these podcast interviews. Hey, I'm the ultimate person who
Hear me
likes
roar.
yes, exactly. So
Little
I
Katy Perry.
am
A little
the
Katy
lion.
Perry action right there. That's my
Yes,
granddaughter's her favorite song when we're in the car driving somewhere and they'll ask, Daddy, play Roar.
it's a
And
powerful song if you listen to those lyrics.
they know all the lyrics and they got the hand. There's a hand dance that you can do while you're sitting down,
Oh
and
yeah.
they have all of it down.
Mm,
And it is so powerful.
yeah.
And great for two little girls to be singing that kind of song, you
Yeah,
know.
right? For them to
Right.
internalize it, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. They're eating. I mean, that's going into your DNA, isn't it? When you
Yes.
sing that and you're doing the hand signals and you believe, you know the words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm a big fan of that. So without spoiling the book, the
mhm,
heroine, right?
mhm, mhm.
How I don't say how does it end, but I want to ask how does it end? So maybe you could give us a little bit of what does it say on the back of the book, or what is it going to say on Amazon?
Okay, so Mia Hill, she is a magazine executive. She's very proud of her status at the magazine company that she works for, and she tries to hold it together. She is this powerful person. She's got, she knows what she wants. She wants to be the head of the magazine at some
Oh,
point,
great,
but
love it.
she is struggling with her feelings of I guess not a career crisis, but she's also struggling with her mother who died a year before, and she never was able to um, come to terms with how her mother viewed her lifestyle as a magazine executive. Her mother was always like, you have such a talent, you have such a great talent. Why are you using it to write stories? Why are you using it in this capacity when you could do something wonderful to bring people up in the world? And so her mother never agreed with what she did, and she internalized that.
Yes.
And even though she is an executive where she works and she does her work well, she still struggles with what her mother felt that was beneath her.
Yeah.
And she is in a relationship with a man who she wants to break free from, but for some reason she keeps going back to him, even though it's clear he's not good for her, but she keeps going back to him, and she suffers with this mental anguish of I need to be rid of him, but I can't stay away from him. And then because she kept away from her mother and didn't get a chance to say goodbye to her, she's estranged from her father and her sister, and this messiness. And then one day she is looking at a painting that her mother had gifted to her before she passed away. And then in the painting, she sees a note hidden. She looks at the note, and it's from her mother saying, "I'm so sorry about the way that I treated you. If you want to understand why I treated you the way I did, look for my box." And now she has to figure out, oh my gosh, what is this box and what am I going to find in it?
Ooh, what a twist.
Thank you. The title of the book is called The Box.
The Box.
And yeah.
Well, and your Instagram, you're doing a lot of this on Instagram. How do people find you?
My Instagram is Catheline Duvere. I had to use a pen name because I'm a teacher, and they don't need to know what I'm doing. But it's Catheline Duvere, Cathelina Duvere, Duvert. I think I put it in the chat.
Yeah, it should be. Okay. I'm putting it up on the. I'm going to put it up right here so people can see it.
Oh, great!
Make sure it's. There we go.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I've been promoting it. I just started this Instagram account, so it doesn't have a lot of posts, but I'm posting it, and I'm also going to be, having different posts of meet the characters, and you'll learn a little bit about each of the characters before I publish the book. And
in July. July-ish.
Yes. Yeah. July-ish. Yes.
Yeah. July. See how it goes. Yeah, because it's got to go through all the little hoops and jumps. And are you self-publishing? How are you going to produce it?
I am self-publishing it. I have a mentor. I actually joined a group called Women's Fiction Writers Association, WFWA, and through that I found a mentor who's helping me go through the publishing process. I've had 2 editors look at my novel. I mean, this is real. I'm just so ready to bring this book to the world. I think it's an important story, not just because I wrote it, but it really does have a positive message, I feel, despite, the anguish of going through depression. And we find that not just my main character who suffers with depression, but her family does as well, because they've all been traumatized in some way. And just looking at the different ways in people cope with the trauma that they've experienced in their lives. And I think it's a conversation starter. It's a way that we start normalizing the conversation about depression.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And that's so important, right? It's giving people a way to open that conversation up. Not everybody's going to be like your sister.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Grabbing you by the back of the scruff of the neck and open up that Yellow Pages now, because I've had enough of your stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
What a great big sister. Big sister?
Actually, no, she's my twin sister.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, she's my twin sister. She's older than me by 3 minutes, I'm going to say.
Yeah, your older sister.
That's only because the doctor took her out first.
C-section.
Okay.
So we don't really know who would have been who the universe had planned.
Exactly.
Well, that's who the universe had planned, because that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the subplot in there. As you were describing the story, I kind of got this subplot idea of, as the more successful she became, the more it hurt, because the more her mother said it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So as you become more, if she failed, it would have been just so easy in a way because mom told her it was
Yeah.
wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But so here she is burdened by her success.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more
Yeah.
successful she becomes, the more her mother's, it's like you're wrong. You're doing the wrong thing. You're wasting yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like the more you become successful, the more
Yeah.
it's painful in a way, or it's harder to accept. I don't quite
Yeah.
know how to articulate it.
Right. Yeah. That's a
But
good point. You're absolutely
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a subplot in a way, or if people can see that, your success sometimes, does come with a cost, and
Mm-hmm.
there's always a different view of what success is for people and
Right.
um, how it reflects on them.
Yeah. But
Just trying
even
to,
so, and even so, like the idea of somebody telling you, you're beneath something, that you could do something more. Well,
yes,
who's to say that?
uh,
Like, who's
moms.
yeah, that's true. And I'm not a mom, so but the idea that anything that you end up doing you've done it for a reason. Just like you mentioned
Yeah.
before about the universe, it was meant to happen that way. You're meant to touch somebody in any aspect of your life, I think, in
Yeah.
any way that you do.
I think do whatever you're doing, do it well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about what other people think, and it's
I
not their
agree.
path.
I
And it's better to ask them, how do I do it better? How can I be different at it? But don't. I think we shouldn't belittle what people do, even though
exactly.
you think they can do better.
Right. Right.
Which is strange because I just got my hair cut,
Mhm.
and every time I leave the house, I carry a stack of cards with me, my business cards, and
Okay.
they're my business card on one side, and they have the questions from the jar on the other.
Okay.
And so I gave the barber, at the end of the transaction, I paid my bill. I said, "Well, how would you like a question of the day? Can I leave you with something to think about?" And so I kind of fanned the cards out, and I let somebody pick their own question.
Mm-hmm.
And the question he picked was, is it compassionate to push somebody to be their best?
Mm.
And so it's kind of an interesting,
Yeah.
there's a lot there with the mom and in the story,
There
you
is
know.
because yeah, is it cruel that you're pushing them to do something that they're probably not uh feeling like they need to do, or
Yes, yeah.
yeah, or is it the right thing because you know that they can achieve
And
that?
they can do something even what in your mind greater.
Right, greater.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
he was so articulate. He was saying, if you're in a good space, yes. If the person is in a good space, yes,
Mhm.
push them. If they're
Yeah, yeah,
not in a good space, then you support them.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Just a guy cutting hair, in a small
Awesome.
town. And
That's
just the wisdom of people
yeah.
that I come across is so profound. And I've had the joy of passing those cards on to probably a couple thousand people over the last couple of
Wow.
years,
That's
and
amazing.
just getting these incredible answers, and
And
knowing the card is there, left that with him.
that's amazing. Yeah, I don't know if you told me yet already, but how did you come to start doing this?
Yeah. So a short backstory is I was in corporate and wanted to do something after corporate, and that involved public speaking. So now my career is kind of launching, just recently launching, is to be a public speaker.
Mm.
And I thought the background to that would have been writing a book, which we shared. And then writing the book led to the jar somehow, like life does. One thing leads to another thing.
Yeah.
And the book became the backbone of the questions. So I used the book to create the questions.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Yes, yes,
so all the questions come from the book.
yes.
So
Wow.
I think it's a great thing for authors. For me, the discovery was, you just write a book doesn't have to be the end of it. There's a lot more that can come
Mhm,
out of that. And I
mhm.
love what you're doing with the Instagram page where you're going to be sharing with people snippets of the characters,
Yeah.
right? And so they
Yeah,
can, you don't have to read the book and then leave it, right? You can enjoy another snippet of the character and seeing it maybe carved out by itself.
yeah,
You'll have a different interaction with that story when you see
yeah,
just a piece of it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And so
exactly.
there's a lot more you can do with the book, Kathy. I think,
Oh,
don't stop at just
absolutely.
the book. There's a lot of life that can come out of it. And then I started this podcast. So, you know, by starting a book, then this happens, then that happens. And actually, it all started with buying a guitar, which is even funny. Yeah. So, you know, the unintended consequences. I'm getting another question for Cathy, by the way. So the unintended consequences, you know, the unintended knock-on things that happen when you start down something so intentional.
Yeah.
And I think you're very intentional. I love that about you. You know, you're very, and how you've come and gone with the book, which is a very similar experience, I think, to many writers. And so I'm excited to see, you know, what happens after this, like in 12 months, what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ooh, interesting. Okay. So this will, I think we kind of get a little bit of an idea when I read this one.
Okay.
So another question for Cathy. Have you ever rejected a loving person?
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of heavy.
It is. Have I ever rejected a loving person? Well, okay, so I'm gonna this is how I'm gonna answer this question.
Okay.
Because I can't think off the top of my head somebody my rejection of someone. Maybe I wasn't aware of it, but I'm gonna talk about the husband I'm separated from currently.
Okay.
And he has an interesting way of showing his love.
Okay.
He's kind of somebody who puts me down without realizing it. He yells at me when I he yelled at me when I messed things up or made a mistake, maybe a mistake that should not have been made. Or, you know, I recall just real quick, like I was driving and I accidentally ran through a stop sign and I almost hit somebody, but I didn't. But he proceeded to yell at me for that. And I said, why are you yelling at me like I'm a child? Oh, because, you know, I care about you and this and that, this and that. So I feel like, and I separated from him because of the way that he treated me. And he didn't understand that the way that he was treating me was hurtful to me. To him, the way he was treating me was showing how much he loved me. So in that sense, I rejected the way that his way of loving me.
Yeah. I mean, if he was here, he would answer the question that way.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Because
Understand.
he came from a home, like a verbally abusive home, and I suppose that was the way that he understood how to show love.
It's what he saw.
It's what he saw. It's what he experienced. And through our interactions going back and forth, I don't think he quite understood how his words and his actions were hurting me. To him, I was too sensitive. And
how does your end? I'm sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
To him, I was too sensitive, and that I needed to. I'm not going to say get over it, but I needed to understand where he was coming from. But for me, it was hurtful, and it was condescending, and it was toxic to me. So I needed to separate from that, and that's why I separated from him. So, yeah.
How's your energy after you're separated?
It was 100 times better. Yeah. I have to say.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, it was the best decision that I'd made.
Yeah.
And not to say anything negative against him, he did the way he behaved towards me was what he knew, what he understood.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. The second I stepped away from him, it's going on 7 months now. I'm where I need to be.
Yeah.
I'm where I need to be.
Yeah, no bad guys. I mean, there's no bad guys in the end, I think, in breakups like this, right? It's what's right for you, and you know, he'll find his way.
Yeah.
And for him, it may be learning, you know, maybe doing some work, some internal work.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hope? What's your hopes for the book? Yeah, you know, without expectations, I guess, you know, because that's a bad.
I'm sorry. Ooh, sorry about that.
Uh-oh, my life. we all can sympathize with that one. It's time to wake up somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
What's your hopes without me like an expectation, but I mean in a nice way, without setting yourself up for any disappointment and just
Well, I the reason why I started writing it was in an attempt to understand myself and what I was going through. And so my hope for the book is, like I said before, so that it can open up a conversation about what some
yes.
people are going through, so that we can be kinder to each other, so that we can help each other navigate
Mm,
whatever inner turmoils we're going through. So we'll be able to recognize when somebody's going through something, so that we could be a little bit kinder, open up the conversation. What are you going through right now?
mm,
Can we talk about it? That's what my hope is.
yeah, I think that's great. And the Mr. Rod, I was kind of come back to this Mr. Rogers interview with Rose, Steve Rose, to forget his name, Rose. But he was basically just saying, if I touched one person, if I touched one kid,
Yeah.
it's all worth it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the
Mhm.
guy he's on TV for, I don't know, 30 years or something, 30
Wow.
something years or more. And, he hoped to just touch one kid. Well, the reality is he touched millions of people.
Millions. Wow.
But for him, it was just, just one young kid
Mhm.
watched me and found some comfort or
Yeah.
learned something. So I think you will get there. I don't think you're gonna fall short of that goal. How about some closing thoughts? Any kind of a message you want to leave with somebody, like or maybe I'll give you two spots. One is
Mhm.
a final question, and then a chance to kind of wrap up your thoughts or wrap up. What's your message to you? So 10 years ago, when the book is on ice 6 years ago,
Mhm.
5 years ago.
Mhm.
So you go back to Cathy with the book on ice.
Mhm.
What's the message to you? What would you wish you knew?
What do I wish I knew?
Or
Um,
would be a message you'd send her if you could go back in time?
I would say the message I would give myself is, you're going through this for a reason. There's a bigger purpose for you. So don't give up.
Keep going.
Keep going. Yeah.
I think we all need to hear that sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like I'm about to cry. It was it wasn't an easy journey, but I'm here and I'm much happier.
Yeah, and it's all for the bigger purpose, right? There's a reason.
Yeah.
Find that one soul.
Yeah.
You might pull out of depression. You might pull out of that rough spot. And wow, how good to be at see you at the book signing
Mm-hmm.
and somebody comes up to you and says, you saved me, the
That
book,
would be beautiful.
the box, right? I
Yeah.
found my box.
That would
I
be
found my
beautiful.
box.
Hmm.
Any closing thoughts? Any message for the audience? Because you already gave yourself one.
One of the things that I really, really emphasize, I feel like that writing has really,
Mm,
really helped me
yeah,
open up to
yeah,
understanding myself. One of the things that I would like to say is that everyone has something that they're good at, right?
yeah.
Find that passion, find that one passion of yours, and just immerse yourself into it. And I think you'll find yourself in there if you're lost. I really feel like that.
Ooh, that's powerful. I really love that, Kathy. Thanks so much for sharing your story, and I'm excited to get the message from you when the
Mhm.
book comes out. Maybe we'll repost this episode, get it
Oh
on
yeah,
LinkedIn, and
definitely.
repost it, and just remind everybody to go find that book. So make sure to reach out to me when it's up, and
I will
get the
definitely.
Amazon link in there or the publishing
Yes.
link in there, and make sure people have a chance to go find their box.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you so much. You made it very easy for me to talk to you, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great. Well, but you've got a great story, a lovely person, and I love the lioness story. I love the lioness spot, man. I'll tell my daughters the story today, or my granddaughters. Thanks everybody for listening and supporting mental health today. Really, some great stories on here. Look back at any of the episodes we've got. If you're listening to this on the audio version, still with us, drop down, give us some stars. give Cathy a thumbs up and, write her a note of encouragement or a congratulatory note on the book to come out. Cathy, hang around for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I got one more little fun video, and then I'll see you on the other side.
Sure.
Yeah, loose, baby.
We're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're gonna go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.